This is the Clear Money Talk podcast, offering up creative solutions for your retirement future through education, choice, transparency, and empathy. Now, your host, CEO and founder of Clear Financial Partners, Tim Clairmont, and co-host, Tyler Andrews.
Hello. Welcome to Clear Money Talk. I am your host, Tim Clairmont, CEO and founder of Clear Financial Partners, and we're happy to be here to answer your money-related questions and teach you something smart about money. As always, we have our co-anchor here, Tyler Andrews.
I like the co-anchor.
Yeah.
I immediately think of Anchorman, which,
Yeah, that's an entertaining movie.
It's a fun movie.
So, yeah, for those that have seen it.
Welcome to Clear Money Talk, though.
That's right.
So it's the holidays right now. We're recording during the holiday season. So Tim and I are, Tim's got his Christmas tie going on, and I got no tie going on, but we're in the podcast studio having fun like normal.
Yeah, we're always having a good time. We have our holiday event tonight with a lot of our clients who will be coming and joining us and just celebrating the holidays. So looking forward to seeing everybody tonight. By the time you're hearing this, I have no doubt that the party will have already occurred. We'll have already had a great time, and I hope you're enjoying the answers to our money-related question, which yet again, I'm really enjoying this format of not knowing what the question is beforehand. So Tyler's preparing the questions in advance. Yep. He's hitting me with them without any pre-discussed discussion about like kind of what we're going to talk about or any of that stuff. So you're just getting off the top of my head exactly what it is that I believe and think and feel about whatever the right answer is, in my opinion, to the money-related question. So let's see what you got.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of preparation for these. It's fun just to do whatever is fresh in our heads. And Tim has no idea what the question is. I at least know the question, like Tim said. So today's topic and question of the day is, are feelings getting in the way of your financial success?
Oh, interesting. Are feelings getting in the way of your financial success?
Initial thoughts.
Oh, that'll be, So my initial thoughts is, I think ultimately... mixed feelings. So the first response I have is, there are a lot of feelings that we have that can make us less successful financially. We can lean into those feelings out of fear to avoid dealing with our financial issues, which clearly lead to problems. We can also, lead into our feelings about like a false sense of security without looking at things and acknowledging the reality of a situation. And yet, on the other hand, feelings are a critical part of the financial plan, like how you feel about money and how you feel about your future, how you feel about your health, how you feel about your loved ones. All of those feelings are very real when it comes to building your plan. So it's hard to just blanket state that our feelings getting in the way. The feelings are a critical part of the financial plan, but are they potentially getting in the way of your success in your financial planning? Yeah, I think that's still a safe yes on that one, and I think we can explore it in greater detail.
Yeah, I think the way you answered that's a very prudent way of answering it, is that it could be both ends. It could be, yes, they could potentially be getting in the way of additional financial success, whatever your definition of success looks like. But also feelings are very important. They're the cornerstone for everything, every decision you make, whether it's financially related or otherwise. And in our industry, a lot of time, energy, and training go into understanding feelings and how those get in the way and impact. Maybe not get in the way, but impact a good, cohesive financial plan. I mean, like Tim was just saying, they are literally the cornerstone of building a solid financial plan. You don't want to build a plan with somebody if you don't feel good about it, because then you're going to be less likely to stick to it. So feelings are very important to it. However, there are certain feelings that sometimes need to be worked through in our experience to make it so you can see the other side of things. Yeah, I'm trying to be careful with my words, I guess.
That's the nature of it, right? So we're trying to straddle the fence like platypuses here.
Yes,
so we are. We're all ducks and beavers fans. Right?
I think the reason I chose this question is because behavioral finance is very important in everything that we do.
Critical.
And one quote that is very common in our industry is that the fear of loss usually outweighs the potential for gains in a portfolio for many investors. Mm-hmm. And that's a very common thing. People hate the feeling of loss more so than they like the feeling of gains in their portfolio. And that's the situation for a lot of people.
It truly is, though it's interesting. You should self-diagnose yourself now as I ask this question. So are you more afraid of losing your principal Or are you more afraid of missing out on the growth you could have otherwise had if you were in some kind of other position? Both of those are examples of fear affecting your investment approach. But one is fear of loss and a feeling of scarcity and just not wanting to lose what you have. And there's nothing wrong with either of these, by the way. No. And the other one is a fear of missing out. It's that FOMO. It's that fear of missing out on the growth that would have otherwise occurred had you been in a better portfolio, or the missed earnings potential. Both of those feelings are very, very common, and they're things that we need to factor into our recommendations. Like, for example, for the first feeling, for those who have a fear of loss of principal, we'll invest very conservatively. There are certain strategies that we can invest in that secure the principal to make sure that somebody isn't going to lose that. In other scenarios where you're more afraid of the upside, that fear of missing out, we have to evaluate how much money do you need to keep liquid in order to satisfy your liquidity requirements? How much money do we need to keep positioned for all the various purposes you have? And how much does that leave you then free to invest with potentially a little bit higher growth opportunity, and then discuss and educate on what the opportunities might be, because the value of diversification can lead towards some elements of implied safety. I'm not saying it's safe. You're not guaranteed against loss or anything like that with diversification, but with a diversified portfolio, there is that risk that's spread amongst a wide variety of positions. That also means, however, you're not likely to get the outsized phenomenal performance that you might get out of one individual stock, for example. On the other hand, you don't get the phenomenal loss that you might get on one individual stock. So that's the nature of how these things work. It's tough. It's tough to factor all of these things in when you're dealing with these emotions. I think a neat structure for answering this might be to go through the 5 principles of financial planning and then think about how emotions could affect each one of those principles, because building a financial plan is something that we do for all of our clients, and that those 5 principles are pretty much the backbone of building every financial plan. So
they sure are.
Yeah, we're talking the first. So the first of the 5 principles is rate of return, which rate of return is definitely something we own in our relationship with our clients. We try to optimize the growth of a client's portfolio as best we can, given their risk tolerance. But there are definitely feelings that go into that. The feelings that I just shared with you about loss of principal, and then also about fear of missing out, are absolutely going to get in the way of potentially optimizing your return unless you address those feelings and integrate them into your strategy. And we're quite good at that. Let's move on to the second one, though. Let's say the second principle is retirement income planning. And I think some of the fears that I alluded to in the beginning are probably the bigger fears that will get in the way of your success with your financial plan when it comes to retirement income planning. Because with the retirement income planning, you're putting your head in the sand. Like, I always envision the ostrich, right? Where the ostrich sticks its head underground, and it's like that whole fear, like it doesn't want to see anything. There are a lot of people out there that have their head in the ground when it comes to retirement income planning. They're just thinking, oh, my 401k will take care of it, or Social Security will take care of me, or I'm never going to be able to retire. I'm just going to work for the rest of my life. Those philosophies, those statements are excuses. They're excuses to not pull your head out of the sand and look at your situation. And I think that those feelings, it really come from again, fear. I think it's a fear of finding out that there is a gap between what you're on track for and what you feel like you need to have. But so many times we're able to actually show clients that, that gap isn't as big as you thought it was. And there is a solution to get you through that gap. And all of a sudden you have a plan that's now feasible, and you can actually have peace of mind to say, wow, I can truly retire at X age on Y amount of income. And that's very, it just brings a lot of peace for a lot of people when we get a chance to do that. So I think retirement income planning, there's that ostrich feeling. You want to
get your head out of the sand.
More? You want to add more?
No,
to that
I think it's just, it's a quote I use often. It's that people don't plan to fail; they fail to plan. And if your head's in the sand, you're going to be failing to plan. You're not planning to fail; you're just trying to avoid it. And so, you just pull the head out of the sand enough to be able to devise some sort of plan and, course of action can pay dividends, and not dividends in the form of a stock or anything like that, but just dividends as far as positive progression in the right way for whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
Or at least look around enough to hire somebody else, and then you can stick your head back in the sand if you need to. That's another way to do it.
And I think we're hitting on all these good points on ways to avoid letting your feelings get in the way of your financial success, which is, Tim was mentioning diversification. That's one great way. Working with an advisor is another great way to, deal with this. Setting regular reviews, whether that's with yourself or with your advisor or whoever your team of people are that are helping you. That's another way to, help let your, feelings stay out of the equation, to let your financial success be what it should be. So these are all just, options as we're going through the 5 tenets that, that are flushing these things up.
Yeah.
So the next would be insurance planning.
Probably estate planning.
Estate planning?
I would say normally I'd go with
that one
estate planning.
first?
Protection,
Okay.
I would go with 5.
Okay.
So estate planning, tax planning, and protection planning are the 3rd, 4th, and 5th principles. And so when it comes to estate planning, that's like your legal documents, your wills, your advance directives, your beneficiary designations, your ownership titling. Are there estate tax consequences? Are there not estate tax consequences? All of that stuff factors into your estate planning. And I would say that this is another one of those scenarios where it's really easy to keep your head in the sand and just keep kicking the can down the road. And one way that I deal with this emotionally, because I'm human, I have the same feelings that you have when it comes to this stuff. Like I would hate to wake up every night stressed out about whether or not my estate plan is going to take care of my loved ones. That doesn't feel good. And if you live in that constant state of stress about that, that's not healthy for you anyway. You're probably going to speed up your own end, which is not good. So what I do is every January, I go sit down at the Starbucks, typically like right across the street. I'll put in my AirPods, they're noise canceling, and I'll grab either a yellow pad or now my new Remarkable that I'll take notes on. And at the top, I will say, what happens if I die or get disabled this year? And I'll read all my legal documents and I'll do the math. And if I feel like the legal documents say exactly what I want done, if I were to pass away that year, then I don't worry about it for another year and I can put it aside and I can sleep well every night and I'll do the exercise again next January. On the other hand, if it turns out that, no, I don't know if this is going to go correct based on the way I've read the documents, or no, this isn't correct, then I contact my attorney, we update my estate plan, and then it's all fixed and I still don't worry about it for another year. Either way, I don't have to worry about it all year long. So if you haven't done this and had an appointment with yourself to review your own estate planning documents and ask yourself the question, if I die or get disabled this year, is everything going to go the way I want? I encourage you, have that appointment with yourself. All you have to do is schedule the time, make the time to actually look at your documents, ask yourself the question, and answer the question for yourself. There's no fee for that. That's you scheduling an hour of your time to go review all that documentation and read it yourself. And you should have a good sense if you're on track or not on track. And anyway, if you need a good attorney, we can refer you to people too. We certainly have great relationships here in the Portland, Oregon area, at least.
Mm-hmm. I like that concept, Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah, just another example of, finding ways to better position yourself to be able to make smart financial decisions by taking care of things that are stressing you out or that are worrying you. Because once you can get those things behind you, it frees up your mind space to be able to focus on things that are, need to be focused on. So checking the boxes one at a time. That's what life's about, checking the boxes.
Yep.
Prioritizing things, checking the boxes systematically to get through them, and that brings, a sense of completion, which is important to me in my life at least.
It's important to me too. And I'm glad it's important to you.
Yeah, thanks.
Your completion is also important to me, Tom.
I appreciate that.
Let's move on to tax planning. So tax planning is one where a lot of emotions can come into play. So when you think about taxes, like for me, I remember my first paycheck and how, FICA and FUTA and FEDIC and STATIC had taken a big chunk of it. And I was like so frustrated that I ended up learning how to do my own tax return and was doing that at 13, thanks to my dad telling me, Tim, you can do this. It's easy enough. And it was a 1040 EZ, so it wasn't as complicated as some of the other tax returns. But being a tax junkie for like learning all the tax rules, it all comes from this feeling of there is a limited amount of benefit that is available to you through certain tax rules. Think of 401ks and Roth IRAs or traditional IRAs, for example. They all have limits. There's only so much money you can put in. Once you hit the limit, you can't put more into those plans, and now you have to look at other tax strategies that are going to try to help you, save some dollars legally on taxes. So I think that taxes as a category is one where it's very easy to have significant amount of that fear of FOMO, that fear of missing out. That would be a double negative, right? Fear of FOMO, no. So just fear of missing out or FOMO. We don't have to be fear of missing out. But anyway, fear of missing out when it comes to taxes, I think is a big part of it, because we feel like if we overpaid in taxes more than we needed to pay, then we didn't take that money and use it where we wanted to use it. And I'm not saying that taxes don't have a purpose. I absolutely feel like we need to take care of our police officers, our firefighters, our public safety, our roads, our teachers, there's so many other things that our taxes take care of that I'm so grateful for, and I appreciate that. but we don't need to pay any more than the legal minimum. And if we don't know if we're paying the legal minimum, there's a good chance we're paying extra more than we need to be paying. And that's often the case when we take a look at the taxes and the planning. Now, we don't give tax advice in general. We are financial advisors, and we'll help you invest to effectively utilize some of the rules that are out there related to this stuff. But we work together with other tax professionals and assist in that process. And that's something that I definitely think your feelings can get in the way of good planning when it comes to taxes, because it might make you leap towards some strategies that might not be the best plan for you, because you think you need to do that, or you think you should do that in order to save money on taxes, or you might avoid. Like, one quick example, you may have a highly appreciated stock. Some stocks recently have gone up significantly. Maybe you have one that's worth a lot of money. You put in a little small amount and it's worth a lot. And you don't want to sell it because you don't want to pay taxes on it. Well, that may not be the best financial decision. That position might drop significantly in value, and it might not be an appropriate position for you to hold inside of your overall portfolio based on the size of that outsized position relative to your overall net worth. So if you let taxes be the primary reason why you hold on to a position, you may be overlooking the wisdom or prudence of actually keeping that position in your portfolio in the first place, especially at its current percentage. We saw this with, I don't know if you remember this or not as you're listening to this, but the Enron situation and the PGE, all the PGE employees back in the early 2000s that had Enron stock at a very high level. And then all of a sudden, it came out, that stock blew up, and a lot of people lost a lot of money. And that's why you want to be very careful to make sure that your portfolio is balanced and allocated the way you want it to first, and then that it's tax efficient second. And you still do both, but another thing to make sure your feelings aren't getting in the way of good financial advice when it comes to your investment portfolio.
Yeah, that's a great point you brought up. There's actually a term for that in behavioral finance called anchoring bias. Talks about you're anchored to the original idea that stock did so well originally that it's going to continue to trend in that direction, which is not always the case, as Tim showed with real world examples. So anchoring happens all the time, where you anchor yourself to one idea or thought or experience. And we have to be fluid in our ability to make look at other ideas and be open-minded to these things. So
there's a lot of anchoring going on right now with the Magnificent Seven.
There's
agree. A lot of people that just feel so strongly that
S&P 500 only, the Magnificent Seven stocks that drive so much of the S&P. So all these things, and we're not saying one's better than the other or not to do something. It's just saying, be aware.
Yeah, and make sure you can afford the risk in your position. One good way to look at this and ascertain the circumstances is to say, hey, am I in a good position or not in a good position? You can self-assess this right now, self-diagnose. Look at your portfolio. If everything you had was somehow magically tax-free in cash right now, would you still buy all the same stuff you own in those same amounts? If the answer is yes, you would write a check for everything you have exactly in the amounts that you currently have it in, you're probably in a pretty good mix. But if the answer is no, you probably wouldn't write a check at that level into those kinds of positions. That's probably a good indicator that you might have outsized positions that need some trimming in order to be more prudently allocated with your own risk tolerance and your desires. And that's all just your own self-assessment. You'll know how uncomfortable you get when you do that exercise. The more uncomfortable you are, the more severely outsized you might be, the more likely you should probably reach out for some help or make some serious decisions.
I like that exercise.
Yeah.
Cool.
The last one is protection planning.
Protection planning / insurance.
Yeah.
So this one probably feeds really closely into emotions.
Absolutely. I mean, the three bullet points underneath protection planning are health insurance, auto and home insurance, and then life, long-term care, and long-term disability insurance. And I think when it comes to health insurance, we all understand the value of that. Generally speaking, I rarely come across somebody who doesn't have health insurance. And auto and home insurance, frankly, they're required by law. So most people with autos and automobiles and homes have auto and home insurance. So, generally speaking, those aren't really things that, you might have some emotions about it, but they don't usually get in the way of your circumstance. I will say I've seen some people underinsured when it comes to their auto and home insurance because they're just being too cheap, frankly, when it comes to the coverage. You really want to make sure you're adequately covered there. There's many times that people are underinsured when it comes to auto and home because they're just doing the legal minimums. And that's an area where, taking a look at an umbrella policy is not necessarily a bad idea. You should give some consideration to something along those lines.
Yeah.
But the area that we work in regularly is life insurance, long-term care, and long-term disability insurance. And I think that that area, life insurance, long-term care, and long-term disability insurance, those three categories very often ignored. People are underinsured or completely uninsured. They have their head in the sand on it. They haven't dealt with it. They keep kicking the can down the road. And, it just raising your head up and making a conscious decision to say, what's this risk? What's an appropriate amount of coverage to take care of this? And does it make sense for me to acquire it or not? And if you're not insuring on these things, you're self-insuring, meaning you're paying out of pocket. And that's okay. That's your choice. But do so from an informed position. Make sure that you understand what your options are, because too often I think that fear of not wanting to pay for things, or that fear that you feel like only bad things happen when you have insurance. I mean, yeah, you have an insurance claim, that emotion around the bad things happening might affect you. I mean, there's even some people I've met that believe that, you get the insurance and then the bad thing happens to you, as if it's somehow causation. Which is just
they're trying to find a reason
it's
to
a mental
justify
rationalization to just keep your head in the sand. And
they're cursed, and maybe they
don't do that.
Yeah,
I would say don't do that.
Don't do that.
I have never met somebody who's actually cursed that I know of. So, and if you have, that might be an interesting story that we can talk about.
Yeah,
sometime.
we would love to meet you. Actually, that would be really cool.
Anyway, I think that's probably a good way to go through the answers to this question. So feelings can definitely get in the way of good planning. From just the answer standpoint, why don't you hit the just the answer today, Tyler? What do you got for
Oh
everybody?
man, okay,
I don't
know if I can recap all that. Okay, so our topic was, our feelings getting in the way of your financial success. The answer is it depends. I mean, feelings are important for understanding finances and building a solid financial plan, because it's not a stagnant thing, financial plans. It's a very fluid journey. So, having, feelings about your financial plan is important, but also having the right feelings and not letting those get in the way of making sound decisions is important. And that's where Tim and I talked about the 5 tenets of financial planning, where we talked about investment rate of return planning. We talked about retirement income planning. We talked about estate planning, tax planning, and we talked about protection planning, the 5 cornerstones of financial planning, and how all 5 of those have different feelings and emotions attached to them. And what we're trying to avoid in finance when we work with clients is trying to help people avoid making the wrong decisions. And the wrong decisions happen often when your emotions are at play. So an example of that is, a lot of the times when markets may be turbulent, people make the wrong decision and they end up buying at the top of the markets and selling at the bottom because they are scared, right? You get scared in those situations. So we're trying to help people avoid those situations. And obviously we don't know, we can't time the market. No one can time the market. But having a solid plan, having a very clear and defined goals, working with a professional like an advisor, using a diversified approach to investing, all these things can help you avoid having to make those emotional decisions, because oftentimes when our emotions are at play, it leads us to sometimes make decisions that aren't always well thought out. So,
and I guess the one thing I would add to that, I have heard that they're adding a 6th principle of financial planning, which is actually behavioral finance.
Yeah.
And so when you think about that, what that's saying is hey, emotions are not factored enough into the planning for 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, as we just talked through, and they really overlay all of it. And behavioral finance is a really important element of your financial planning. And so having that built into your plan and built in and considered for every one of those bullets, that's critical. That's a huge part of what we do. The feelings are not getting in the way if they're being a part of your plan, but they are getting in the way if they're an excuse for you to not plan. And I guess that's just the answer for today.
Yeah, and I would say if you are working with somebody and you feel that they disregard your emotions and your feelings, I would take that as a red flag. And I'd never want to break up a good relationship, but you could potentially be in a bad relationship if they're not thinking or taking into consideration your feelings and emotions, which we always put, very at the very top of everything we do here at Clear Financial Partners. I mean, your feelings and emotions are, almost the most important thing working with us. So
I'd say they are the most important thing, probably. Education, choice, transparency, and empathy are our 4 values. We teach our clients. We respect your decision to do whatever you want to do with your money. We're transparent about the pros and the cons, the costs, the benefits, so you don't have negative surprises. And then fundamentally, when you ask us for advice, we give you an empathetic recommendation. And that's where the emotions absolutely factor in.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Tim.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Let's hit it. Ready for some trivia?
I'm ready. No, are you ready for some trivia? That's the question.
We'll see.
Okay, I got a fun one. I think you'll you got a pretty good chance of getting this one right. Okay. Trivia question. In a standard deck of cards, what is the probability of drawing a face card, i.e. a jack, queen, or king, on a single draw? I'll give you some choices. You got 1 in 4 chance.
I got it.
1 in 6 chance, 1 in 8 chance,
Are you including the jokers in the deck?
No.
Nope. Okay.
Yeah.
Then that'd be 12 out of 52. So whatever 12 divided by, right? There's 3, that's a jack, queen, king, 4 suits. So that'd be 12. So 12 divided by 52. So your statistical odds are, I guess that's about 24%, give or take.
Okay.
So
you're going with a 1 in 4?
Your statistical odds of pulling a face card out of a 52 card deck
In a single draw.
in a single draw.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's about 24%.
Okay.
What do you got?
It's 1 in 3.
1 in 3?
Yeah.
How is that possible?
I don't know.
Are they counting the ace?
They must be counting the ace.
They're counting the ace. That's why. Because yeah, if you had jack, queen, king, and ace, if you count the ace as a face card, then you have 16.
Then it reduces that further. Yeah.
But even then, 16 times 3 is 48, and it's a 52 card deck, right? I don't know. Anyway,
I don't know either.
Now I'd have
blame generative
check it
AI
out.
for this.
We got AI hallucinating. That's what's going on.
Yeah. Maybe it was testing us.
Statistical odds. Yeah. I mean, I'm open to being proven wrong. If you've heard this and you agree with AI instead of with our answers, please let us understand why. Why are your odds in a 1 card draw?
I would like to hear
a 52
that,
card deck?
Yeah.
Why is it 1 out of 3? Because that definitely feels too high to me.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Anyway,
okay. Wise words to wrap this up.
Sure. I guess
trying to stay on topic with
don't let your feelings get in the way of a good financial plan. Let's just take care of it. Take care of it. Talk to somebody. If you don't have a planner already that you've had the conversation with, give us a call. That's what we do.
Give us a call. We can be reached 503-579-1000. Give us a call. Look at our websites. If you learned something smart about money today, which we hope, get counted, somethingsmartaboutmoney.com. Otherwise, just keep tuning in. We love sharing the information and educating you guys out there. So we hope you find it useful and look forward to connecting with you guys at some point in the future.
Thanks for joining us on Clear Money Talk.
Tim Clairmont and Tyler Andrews are investment advisor representatives offering securities and advisory services through Cetera Advisor Networks LLC, a broker-dealer and registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. The views depicted in this material are for information purposes only and are not necessarily those of Cetera Advisor Networks LLC. They should not be considered specific advice or recommendations for any individual. For a comprehensive review of your personal situation, always consult with a tax or legal advisor. Neither Cetera Advisor Networks LLC nor any of its representatives may give legal or tax advice. All investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will be successful. A diversified portfolio does not assure a profit or protect against loss in a declining market. Investors cannot invest directly in indexes. The performance of any index is not indicative of the performance of any investment and does not take into account the effects of inflation and the fees and expenses associated with investing. Clear Financial Partners is located at 15573 Bangi Road, Suite 100, Lake Oswego, Oregon, 97035. For more information, please call us at 503-579-1000.